Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Good morning. It's 6:07 on this Thursday in your nation's capital, 9th day of April, and I hope you're having a great one already, and it's going to be an even better one as the day goes on. Yes, we've got updates on the ceasefire in the Middle East and the disposition of our military and where things go from here. And we've also got plenty to talk about here at home. Coming up in 30 minutes, Victoria Cobb of the Family Foundation. 7:05, Mercedes Schlapp will talk about getting out the vote here against the referendum and gerrymandering scheme. 7:35, KT McFarland will give us a deep dive in Iran. 8:05, Mark Fisher is a Maryland delegate in Maryland. Talk about the budget that just got passed without anybody watching. And at 8:35, Matthew Hurt, chairman of the Arlington Republican Party, suing Virginia over their ridiculous voter laws. That's all coming up. It's Larry O'Connor with Carrie Lukas of Independent Women joining us this morning. Carrie, it's always good to have you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's also always good to have Sean Kennedy. He, of course, in charge of Virginians for Safer Communities and just a tireless advocate for common sense in the Commonwealth. Good morning, Sean. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Larry and Carrie.
I know you've been tracking the story out of Fairfax County, this involving the illegal immigrant adult who was placed into Fairfax High School as a junior and was apparently a serial sexual assaulter, groping young girls, young teenage minor girls, between their legs, front and back, on a regular basis. Finally, after multiple complaints, the school system and police did something about it. So what's the latest on this story?
Well, at 10 a.m. this morning, there will be what is listed as an adjudicatory hearing on his charges. Now, it's important to note that he has, I believe, 9 charges, but none of them are for sexual assault or any type of felony. They're all criminal misdemeanor 1, assault and battery, which is just like you and me. Somebody throws a blow at a bar. These usually get dropped down and dismissed, or people plead out to one charge or whatever, but there would probably be no jail time because the Commonwealth's attorney, Steve Descano, undercharged him, I don't know, intentionally or whatnot, but it's striking that these are clearly sexual assaults. They were not, touching. They were grabbing private parts in a public area, as you said, on multiple days. Of almost more than a dozen girls have already complained about this, and it's going to happen today. And I'm hearing new news, which I will tell you here, that the case probably will be dropped today, and he will walk out a free man. And the reason is just yesterday. So this case has been listed for today at 10 a.m. for weeks. And just yesterday did the Commonwealth's attorney issue subpoenas, which are like notices to appear, to the witnesses and the victims in this case. So wow. Fairfax City Police spent the afternoon scrambling to get to these people all yesterday to tell them that in 12 hours you need to show up in court, or 18 hours.
Amazing.
It's complete incompetence or intentional neglect, but this is going to result in witnesses not showing up, and they're clearly unprepared because you wouldn't do this if you were prepared. So I anticipate these charges to be entirely dropped and him to walk out of court today. And if our friends at the Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency are listening, the Fairfax jail release time for a case dismissed mid-morning is about 5 p.m. But you can call the jail and they'll tell you when he will be released. So, just give the sheriff's office a ring and you'll get the release time. And, I hope to see your van in the circle outside the ADC.
Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, they're I'm sure they're plugged in. They're going to be there. Great point, Sean. Go ahead, Carrie.
Is there a concern that, obviously this is completely outrageous. Is there a chance that he's going to end up back in school?
That's actually, somebody told me that they asked the principal and they said yes. They said he will return to Fairfax High, or he could obviously transfer to another Fairfax County high school. They said that he will return to high school upon the completion of his sentence or case.
Oh my gosh.
Like, this is not kidding. And then I heard something crazy yesterday, which I don't know. I'm not verifying this, but this was somebody who's close to this case, that the principal informed them there are 300 individuals over the age of 18 who are undocumented migrants that are attending Fairfax High, which has 2,800 students. So do the math there. There are 18-year-old undocumented, 300 of them at Fairfax High alone. And Fairfax City, by the way, is not the most migrant-heavy part of Fairfax County. You're looking down at Mount Vernon or parts of Herndon or whatever. So 300 just at Fairfax High is crazy.
Incredible. We're speaking with Sean Kennedy. And Sean, if I could sort of expand the conversation here with regard to the criminal illegal immigrants who are in our communities, in our schools, being arrested for breaking the law even further and then released, like you just described, because there's a whole lot of gaslighting going on out there about what makes a criminal illegal immigrant a criminal illegal immigrant. And as you pointed out the other day, I saw basically a lot of these agencies are merely changing the definition of criminal to accommodate their own political agenda. Can you sort of explain that to us, what they're doing?
So what we do know, and ICE is disputing like how accurate the data is because of how things are classified. But there's two groups. There's something called TRAC, TRAC, and that's a Immigration Clearinghouse Research Institute at Syracuse University. And then my alma mater, UC Berkeley, has something called the Berkeley Deportation Project. And both of them request through Freedom of Information Act raw data from ICE and Customs and DHS about the immigrant arrest and deportation data.
Right.
So in that data, it classifies an immigrant for why they were arrested under three categories: criminal conviction, pending criminal charges, or immigration violation.
Right. And under that definition, just if I can jump in real fast, 71%, close to 3 out of 4, according to TRAC, that are being held in ICE detention centers, they're claiming have no criminal conviction. Is that right?
Yeah, they're saying no criminal conviction. And why that's important is...
of course.
Every
I see it
single
now.
person
Right after I
with
say it, I see it. It's
Yeah, so when you add pending charges or like people who are released on bail and ICE goes and picks them up or whatever. I mean, do you remember the guy who tried to abduct the little girl in Fairfax County in the apartment, and Steve Descano dropped the charges? Well, after Steve Descano dropped the charges, that individual had no criminal conviction and no pending charges. So he's not part of the category. So what they're doing is playing fast and loose with it. So TRAC used to, until April of last year, so 1 year ago, they changed the definition of criminal alien on their website from including pending charges to excluding pending charges to get that number up to 70% no criminal conviction. NBC ran a story just yesterday using the Berkeley deportation data, and they did the same thing. The funny thing, to give credit to Berkeley deportation data, is they provide you the full raw data for free, and I ran it in Virginia. And in Virginia, over 50% of all the arrests since Trump took office are criminal aliens with either pending charges or convictions. And then on top of that, when I went into the data, about half of those who were arrested with immigration violations were final removal orders. They had final removal orders. Yeah. And you were told to go multiple times. You did not go. We're supposed to just let you stay here indefinitely.
Right. Ignoring a court order is also a crime. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on, and they're fudging the numbers to try to dwell on people's fears and political vulnerabilities. And the fact that you were able to highlight that, 3 months into the deportation regime by the Trump administration, all of these groups changed their definition of what a criminal was. They counted somebody as a criminal before. When Biden was president, they were a criminal. Now that Trump's a president, they're not criminals because now they're facing deportation. It's unbelievable.
And the NBC article was even funnier. It's like the number of whatever increased by of non-criminal deportations increased by 770%. And I'm like, well, if you come from a low baseline, then you're gonna like, I don't understand. 1 to 10 is a 900% increase. I mean, I don't know how you do math, but if you don't deporting anyone, then you're increasing deportations. You are going to increase them by an order of magnitude.
And I'm pretty sure, I don't know, I could be wrong. He tried to kept it on the down low, but once in a while, Trump would say that he was going to deport criminal illegal aliens when he was running for office. And I'm pretty sure people voted for him. I could be wrong. He was very, very subtle about that political messaging. Sean Kennedy, Virginians for Safe Communities. We appreciate you joining us as always, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we've mentioned on previous episodes of this very radio program, Carrie, Lukas, that Representative Eric Swalwell is about to become under fire for what people in D.C. like to euphemistically call an open secret. An open secret is something that everybody knows that just doesn't get reported on. Usually that means it's about a Democrat.
Yeah,
and in
absolutely.
this case, that is the case that there have been, and I have heard this for years and years and years, that Eric Swalwell was a serial violator of your basic conduct with regard to a congressman and members of his staff. Let's just say things that we learned back in the Clinton era that, you're not supposed to engage in with your interns. And this has been swirling around Eric Swalwell. That's why when he started to run for governor, I was like, dude, there's so much dirt on this guy.
Yeah.
What is he thinking?
Certainly this was after Me Too. This was supposed to all,
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
just like be over. You're done.
And we played audio of Cheyenne Hunt, a former Capitol Hill staffer and a political media person. She does viral videos and various investigations. And by the way, she's a woman of the left. And she has been posting videos about how she keeps getting text messages and DMs and stuff from interns. They all have the same story, and it's all about Eric Swalwell, and they all had to sign non-disclosure agreements. Okay, well, Swalwell's campaign has now reacted, saying the allegations are outrageous, which they are. That's true. They are outrageous. He didn't deny them.
Yeah,
He
doesn't mean
just
they're not
said
true, but yeah, exactly.
and said, she did say, a false, outrageous rumor being spread 27 days before an election begins by flailing opponents who have sadly teamed up with MAGA conspiracy theorists because they know Eric Swalwell is the front runner in the race. See, it's MAGA. This is all about MAGA. Just so you know, MAGA. I want Californians to vote for Eric Swalwell. Please, California, put him as your Democrat nominee. I had said when this story came out that this has nothing to do with Trump, has nothing to do with Republicans. Trust me, I'm a former California Republican. We're not this good. Okay, exactly. We do not have our act together. We can't put together an Oppo research campaign against a candidate. Trust me, if we could, Gavin Newsom would have gotten it years ago. Same with Jerry Brown. No, I told you this was coming from Democrats. And now, well, here's the story. CBS Sacramento, the influencer behind viral allegations against Eric Swalwell, has academic and political connections with UC Irvine law professor and California governor race rival Katie Porter. It's a Democrat op.
I love it.
I told you. Anyone who listens to this show got the truth last week that this whole thing is a Democrat op. Democrats are trying to stop Eric Swalwell.
Yeah, that's great stuff. We love to see it.
Yeah. By the way, that doesn't mean these rumors aren't true.
Of course, yeah.
I have no doubt that Eric Swalwell has been involved in inappropriate relationships with his staff. Why do I believe that? Why is that my opinion? Because we know he had an inappropriate relationship with a Chinese spy.
Exactly. This is the least interesting or shocking scandal about this guy. He's got a lot of problems. Errors in judgment, big ones.
In other Eric Swalwell news, while we're at it, again, not that I want to damage his chances, because I think that California could actually nominate this guy. And everyone's like, oh, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, you win. Not this guy. Not this. I honestly believe if he ends up being the Democrat nominee, a Republican will win outright. You don't have to do the, two Republicans make it to the general election thing. Some of his campaign finances have been revealed. First of all, it should be known Eric Swalwell lives in Washington, D.C., not in California. And when he filed for his candidacy, you have to have a California address, right? He used the address of his lawyer's office in Sacramento as his California domicile. I guess he sleeps on the sofa there. And by the way, his lawyer isn't even in his district. So he gave an address, and his campaign announcement video was from his D.C. townhouse.
My gosh.
Saying, I'm going to be governor of California. That said, he's still leading Democrats right now in the primary. Anyway, some of his campaign finances and expenses have come out for the Eric Swalwell for Governor campaign. And he's got child care expenses listed, $2,300 a week, $2,000. Is this per week or per session? It's got to be per week. A total of $6,000 that he has spent on child care, and that money came out of the his campaign for governor fund, right? Understandable. Listen, you're a working dad. You got to get child care.
Well,
you got to pay. But here's the thing. The recipient of the child care $6,000 is a person named Brittany Swalwell. His wife. He paid his wife to babysit their children.
That's unbelievable. And Larry,
$6,000.
The thing is that like childcare expenses, businesses usually don't cover childcare expenses. That's expected as a part of your own. You pay.
Yeah.
With limited exceptions, you're paying that with after-tax dollars. It's like this is not a normal way to approach this at all.
Well, there's nothing normal about Eric Swalwell. So there you go. That's your latest on Eric Swalwell. We'll see what happens as this develops. But yeah, as I mentioned, just keep your eye on that. There's going to be some legit reporting coming up. Where are we now? I think we're 6 weeks away from the primary in California. So it's going to start getting hot.
These Californians are used to getting away with a lot.
That's
can
right.
you imagine? You just assume you have a very incurious press if you're doing.
Well, here's two things that are undeniable. Anybody who has had interactions with or knows people who have had interactions with Eric Swalwell, they know there's a whole lot of problems going on there. And that staff, the other thing that everybody knows is that Katie Porter is a beast. She is a monster, and she is craven, and she will do whatever she has to. She will stab Eric Swalwell in the back with a dull, rusty knife if necessary. And so it's going to get good.
It's going to be fun.
624.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
6:37 on a super busy 9th day of April this Thursday. From your nation's capital, it's O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 7:05, Mercedes Schlepp from CPAC. She is mobilizing and getting out the vote in Virginia with a important press conference later this morning, urging Virginians, specifically Hispanic and faith voices, Latino voters, they're all going to be silenced with the redistricting amendment. So we'll get an update from Mercedes on that. 7:35 brings us KT McFarland on the latest from the Middle East. 8:05, Mark Fisher, Maryland delegate in Maryland, about the crazy last-minute budget stuff. And then at 8:35, Matthew Hurt, chairman of the Arlington County Republican Party, suing Virginia over their election laws. That's a busy morning coming up. Glad Carrie Lukas is here to help me through it. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning.
It's always great to see your smiling face, I have to say. Joining us right now is Victoria Cobb, president of the Family Foundation, such a resilient and incredible group of warriors over at the Family Foundation. And Victoria, first of all, I want to thank you for bringing this to our attention in terms of your battles in Virginia that sort of mirror the decision that we saw, an 8-1 decision, by the way, coming out of the Chiles versus Salazar case in Colorado. This, again, 8-1. You had 8 of these justices, with Ketanji Brown Jackson standing alone, saying, yeah, if a child goes up to a doctor, a medical professional, a therapist, and says, I'm having confusion about my gender, it's not illegal for that person to actually say, well, boys are boys and girls are girls, so let's talk through and figure this out. That was huge, Victoria, and it really does sort of mirror what you've been doing in Virginia. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
So tell us a little bit about where this lies right now and what the Founding Freedoms Law Center through the Family Foundation has been able to do in sort of moving this issue away, because it looked like it was on the brink of insanity just a little while ago.
Yeah, no question. We had in Virginia, just like Colorado, which was the state that was at the heart of that Supreme Court decision, we also had a law on our books put in there during our years of total liberal control, which unfortunately we are back to, but these were during the Northam era, where they passed a ban on what they call talk therapy. Now, remember, talk therapy is literally just the conversation. But what they said was, in our law, if a counselor counseled children, they could not encourage them in any way, even if the child, this is usually counseling is self-directed, it's trying to help the client go where the client wants to go. Even if the child wants to get their thinking to line up with their body, they're gender confused, and they want to kind of circle back to what God has given them, that was illegal in Virginia. Now, it was not illegal to go ahead and encourage a child to change their gender, to go ahead and move forward all the way to, hormones and surgery and all the things. And so a lot of counselors in Virginia actually stopped counseling children because, imagine a child comes in, they're suicidal, you don't know why, and it turns out it's gender confusion. Well, where do you go? Because you can't help them if they want to help themselves in one direction. And that's what Colorado's law was also. So we're thrilled that our Founding Freedoms Law Center was able to help some clients, John and Janet Raymond, move forward with a lawsuit to say, wait a second, that violates my free speech, which is the same issue that was at the Supreme Court.
I'm so grateful that you guys are out there and doing this because we know it's just so important and the damage that is caused, that the kids themselves suffer when they go down the medicalization path. Do you feel like this is the beginning of a real tide turning in terms of like legal victories that are going to put the nail on the coffin of the gender ideology movement? Is there more coming down the pike that you're excited about?
Well, yeah, we certainly felt that, when our Founding Freedoms Law Center was able to win this at the Virginia level and be able to restore to counselors their right to counsel, we felt like it was a huge sea change because, again, we have got to have kids be able to get help. And so now we're seeing this at the U.S. Supreme Court level, which is just even more fantastic. Colorado has 3 times passed ridiculous laws, whether it was Jack Phillips and the baker, and that whole issue where it's like you must bake the cake, or it was Creative Creative, which was 303 Creative, which was folks, you must make the website for the LGBT cause. 3 times. This is the 3rd one. And the courts have finally, continued to say, Colorado, you cannot force this crazy gender ideology. And we have so many other issues that are wrapped around this that keep heading their ways to court. We find, the boys and girls sports. We have been deeply tied to that here in Virginia as well, and saying, look, we are not going to pretend that biology doesn't matter. And, Riley Gaines has been, a big part of that. We're excited to have her come in again to one of our events because she is just, sort of the figurehead of that entire thing. So there is a sea change happening.
It is. And so let me just talk through, because there's a lot of misinformation and confusion, frankly, out there that parents are trying to wade through. Let's separate the T out of LGBT, if we could, just for a moment. If there is a pubescent child, 12 years old, let's say, just starting to go through puberty, and they're having confusing thoughts and feelings, and they suddenly find at times, oh gosh, maybe I'm attracted to people of the same sex. If they go to a therapist and they say, listen, I'm a boy, I'm attracted to other boys, I don't want to be attracted to other boys, what does then that conversation look like? Because if the therapist then says, okay, well then let's help you through these feelings so you're not attracted to boys, that's then called conversion therapy. And it's like you're, hooking up electric diodes to a kid and giving them shock treatments if they suddenly feel attracted to the same sex. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the crazy part about this is every day people go to counselors and say, my brain, my heart, my feelings are taking me somewhere I don't want to go. That is so much of counseling is how do I fix where my emotions, where my actions, where things are going in the wrong direction. And people intuitively kind of know I don't want to be going where I'm going. And that's the same thing this is. It's just we've put it into the context of this ideology, and all of a sudden there's this, no, well, you must be one specific way, and therefore anything to challenge that, because essentially the idea that someone might not want to be that implies to the LGBT indoctrinators that there could be something wrong with that. And that's really why this, unlike, I'm struggling with pornography. I don't want to struggle with it. I'm addicted to gambling. I don't want to, whatever the
I'm
other.
I'm addicted to minors. If for an adult,
right.
Are we supposed to affirm that? Are we not supposed to embrace conversion therapy for people who have pedophilic feelings?
Exactly. And there's a huge study that has just come out of Finland that says, look, kids are not improved over time. People are not improved over time when they are affirmed. That actually does not, the overall number does not improve people's mental well-being just to affirm it. They're still struggling. You can take this to its largest conclusion in the transgender area, and it's not going to necessarily improve one's mental health.
We got to leave it there, sadly. And Victoria Cobb, Family Foundation. Thanks for joining us. Oh, you've got a big event coming up with Riley Gaines, don't you? Let's
we do
throw that out there.
Folks should just pop over to our website, familyfoundation.org. If you want to see Riley Gaines up in the Northern Virginia area, May 4th, we would love to have you.
Very cool. Thank you for that. And before anybody starts screaming and saying, I'm not saying that being gay is the same as being a pedophile. Don't be a moron. Don't be ignorant. This is how people talk about issues and utilize rhetoric to make a point. That's not what I'm saying. Settle down. 6:45. Well, tax day deadline is right around the corner, just under a week away, or as we like to call it in our house, tax extension deadline.
There you go. I'm with you, baby.
You got to get that extension filed, everybody. Don't forget. Do you guys file on time? I don't know anyone who files on time.
No, we take an extension, too.
You got to do the extension.
Rough. It's tough, yeah.
It is. There's a lot of moving parts these days, guys. Exactly. But here's the good news. When you do get around to filing, according to a report from our friends at Independent Women, thank you very much, tax refunds are up 11% on average so far. I knew that the big, beautiful bill and the tax breaks and the no tax on tips and no tax on overtime and all the other stuff and the extension of the 2017 making permanent those tax cuts were going to make an impact. But I had no idea it was going to be over 10% for most Americans. That's huge.
Yeah. And even, it comes out to a couple $100. And you think like right now when people are feeling a little bit of the pinch at the gas pump, it really is, I think, going to be a welcome relief to a lot of folks.
Increased deduction for seniors, increased standard deduction, increased child tax credit, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on tips, and, of course, the extension of those 2017 and made permanent the 2017 tax cuts under the first Trump term that all would have gone up. None of that would have happened under Kamala Harris. It's remarkable. And it's noteworthy to remember not one Democrat voted for all of that tax benefit you're about to enjoy. And I've got to think, especially if the war in the Middle East is resolved, that as people get this money back in their pocket, and as things calm down in the Middle East, there's going to be quite a boost to the economy coming up here in the second quarter and in the third quarter. I know that's what Treasury Secretary Bessent and the president's financial advisors are hoping, or economic advisors, I should say, are hoping to coast into the midterms with some nice economic headwinds, or strong tailwinds, I should say.
Yeah, I feel like, it's great news to see these increased taxed refunds, but really it's a lot better that in every paycheck that people are now getting, the taxes are taking a little less of a bite. So all those deductions are making it so people have a little more wiggle room in their monthly budget.
That's the idea. And businesses that are also benefiting from a lot of the tax breaks they're able to reinvest, rehire, and, well, I mean, that's sort of how you fix affordability problems, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's 6:53.